99.9 Punk World Radio FM. You already know what time is. And right here from the East all the way to the West Coast and right back to the East Coast, we got Southern California Zone. We got Surfwax Ghost right here live on the radio. Guys, how you doing tonight?
Doing great. Stoked to be here.
Yeah,
I got to say,
good afternoon.
I've been super excited for this interview, guys. I absolutely love what you guys got going on all the way out there in California.
Cool.
You guys are absolutely killing it in the punk rock scene over there.
Right on. Appreciate the kind words. Thank you. Yeah, it's always a little bit of a struggle in Southern California. It's such a saturated region of bands and music, but it's also a good thing too if you're into that sort of thing, you know.
And also, I do know your guys are busy individuals, so I'm not going to take you away from your evening this Sunday, but I have to ask, what originally inspired you guys is to actually get into the music industry and, of course, come together as one to form this band? What's the story behind Surfwax Ghost? How did you guys all meet?
Well, our two guitarists aren't here tonight, Sean and Bobby, so me and Brandon are going to be representing Brandon. I can talk about early stuff and then what happened. I used to do music stuff with Sean back in the day. My wife and I had been living up in Oregon during the pandemic. We moved up there thinking we were going to live there the rest of our life because California is just too damn expensive. And we didn't really like it very much up there. It just wasn't for us. Really missed Southern California. Wanted to come back down here. So when we knew for sure we were moving back, I hit up my buddy Sean and I was like, dude, I want to let's start up a band. Him and I had done some music stuff in the past, as I said, and he was all for it. He had nothing going on. So I came back down here in 2022 from Oregon, and he and I started the band. Bobby, our second guitarist, I'd known for a really long time. Him and I had done community theater and stuff like that, and he shreds on the guitar. And I hit him up, and I was like, hey, man, I'm jamming out with my buddy Sean. Do you want to come join us? And he was like, oh, I don't know, maybe, sure, I'll give it a shot. So he jumped on board, and we found a drummer, not Brandon. Our first drummer, Shay Gutierrez from Long Beach, joined, and we became a band. At the end of 2022, our first show was in 2023 in the summer at Supply and Demand in Long Beach. Some stuff happened in Shay's life. He was with us for 2 years. He had a kid, and so he had to step away from the band permanently. And just, how do you say this? At the 11th hour, I met Brandon at a wedding. He is my old coworker's boyfriend. And my old coworker, Roz, she was like, oh, how's the band going? I'm like, oh, it's going pretty good, except we don't have a drummer anymore. And she's like, my boyfriend right here next to me plays the drums.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Brandon jumped in. Brandon, why don't you talk about it?
Yeah, it's one of those things that, I've got a pretty hectic professional life. I'm a teacher, and just, finding extra time is rough. So when she's like, oh, yeah, my guy here, he's a drummer. I was like, oh no, what do you get me into? And then, but it worked out. Evan was like, oh yeah, we're just, we like to hang out, play music, try to do it, consistently and perform consistently. And I was like, yeah, that's really hard to find these days. It's oddly enough. And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. And ever since then, it's been a bit of a challenge for me because punk is just not really where I come from. My history.
What's your background? What's your music background?
Yeah, right. I mean, much of my early, childhood was a lot of classical and jazz stuff, in the music education world, and I'm a metalhead kind of outside of that, and then coming to play punk music it's a little bit new to me, but so I'm having to sort of introduce myself to a lot of bands that I listened to, a lot of punk bands that I listened to when I was a kid, like Less Than Jake and stuff. I know that Evan's a big fan of. So, but it's been fun. I really enjoy it. So, if that makes sense.
So I have to ask this because obviously, you talked about jazz and then, of course, heavy metal. When Evan came to you and was like, hey, Brandon, we need another person to join Surfwax Ghosts, the punk band. Were you all for it at first, or were you kind of hesitant to kind of jump into the punk rock genre scene?
I wasn't hesitant because it was punk. I mean, to me, it was just like, oh, here's another style that I just haven't really dipped my toes in with any, legitimacy, I guess. And more so, it was just like, okay, we're having to figure out how to manage my personal professional life while then taking on kind of this other thing. But again, it's not. It's having it now. Playing with these guys has been it's been very therapeutic. It's fun to hang out with them and make music and do the thing and make noise and go play and perform and stuff, which I hadn't been able to do in the last like 10 years or so, and to any serious degree. So no, it's great. Yeah.
And also as well, June 16th, 2023, Surfwax Ghost released the 4-track EP titled Caught on the Inside. I was wondering, what is the story and inspiration behind this phenomenal debut EP?
Wow, thank you. Caught on the Inside was our first EP to be released. So when we started being a band, we jammed for a long time. We found a local studio in Long Beach, Jazz Cat Studio, run by Johnny Bell, through word of mouth, through some friends who recommended him. And we released 2 singles back in March of that year, 2023. And as soon as we did that, we were hooked. Like the whole experience of going to the studio, recording, working with Johnny on the songs, telling him the kind of sound we were trying to go for. And he has a lot of experience with that sort of thing. And the sound that we were talking about, he's very familiar with. And so once we did those 2 singles, we were like, we got a lot more songs to record. What do we do? So we did that 4-track EP, Caught on the Inside. And so we just had a collection of songs that we wanted to put together. We felt sounded really well. Like the first track is Phoenix Ashes, which is what Bobby wrote. I've got a song in there. Sean's got 2 songs in there. And that's probably like our most punk sounding. It's right up there because we have a little bit of a mix of styles, but that's really like one of the top like punk sounding EPs that we put together for the band. So yeah, it was just a collection of songs that we went in and recorded.
And I gotta say, Big Apple is actually my favorite track off this 4-track EP. Back Home is another great one, but Big Apple's my favorite.
Yeah, Big Apple's written by when Brandon first started listening to our songs, he's like decided to join, and he was trying to get familiar with our music. He was like, Big Apple, what's that song? That sounds awesome. I love that song. I think it's Brandon's one of personal favorites, but Big Apple 3 a.m. was written by Sean. It's about doing mushrooms while playing the Ninja Turtles video game Turtles in Time. Because the first level is called Big Apple 3 a.m. So if you listen to the lyrics are like, there's a fly flying around, which is Baxter Stockman, and trash cans and pizza and all these things. But then some of the other lyrics are like, the walls are melting, but we're having a good time. So all that credit goes to Sean. It's a great like rockin' song.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I will say this, I absolutely love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but that game was an absolute piss off. I still to this day I haven't met anybody that actually beat the game without having to die 1 million times to get through it. Man.
Totally.
Whoever created that game can screw right off. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean it was like one of those arcade games where it's a money grab.
Beat 'em up games,
Yeah, you die immediately. Like you can only beat it nowadays because you download the mod or whatever. You play it on your old system and it has like unlimited, lives. So you just cut through it. But yeah, same deal.
And later on that year in 2023, October 16th, you guys released another EP titled Night Tide. I was wondering if you can actually tell us not only a bit more about this record, but of course, what are some things you did differently during the production process of Night Tide versus the first one?
Okay, yeah. That was still early in our career. Brandon wasn't there for that. It was Shay on drums. So once we did Caught on the Inside EP, like I said, we were hooked on recording. We just had way too many songs, and we're at a point in our lives where it's like, what are we waiting for? We're making some fairly decent money with our jobs, careers, so we can afford it. Whereas like back in my 20s, like there's no way we could go into the studio and record stuff professionally, So we got really excited about doing that. So Night Tide was meant to be a very spooky themed, Halloween themed EP. When I originally hit up Bobby about being in a band, I didn't outright ask him to join. It was Halloween time, 2022, fall was creeping in, and he's really into horror, and I like horror Halloween stuff. And I was just like, oh, hey, Bobby, like, it'd be cool to make a horror punk band one day. Too bad I can't do that right now. Oh, by the way, I'm jamming with a buddy. Do you want to jump in? So Bobby is very like, he's a big fan of like the horror genre. So Night Tide was meant to be 4 songs that focus around horror themed type deal. Like we have a song called Dead by Dawn, which is from the Evil Dead series. And Bobby wrote a couple of songs on there. I would say what we did differently is he wrote a song called "Here Comes the Cucuy," and we did this really like Spanish sounding intro. When you start that song, the song doesn't just kick off; it fades into this like Spanish style guitar and all these like percussion instruments and all this like very Latin American style like music. And so we tried to introduce a little bit of that like culture into because Kakui is like a very like I don't know, what would you say, Brandon? Like it's a
Yeah, I think it's a Latin ghost demon kind of character. Yeah,
yeah.
he
So
could speak to it
Bobby,
better than I could.
but Bobby, he's like part of the Chicano culture out here in Southern California. So he brought a lot of that stuff into our band, and we love it. So yeah, that's kind of
Yeah,
our
yeah, it's
horror
great.
EP that we made.
Yeah,
And I got to say, both of these EPs are absolutely phenomenal, man. I've never. It's very
Thank you.
rare that you actually check out, you actually see a band that actually drops not one but two phenomenal EPs in 1 year, man. It's very rare.
That's great. I
yeah,
appreciate it. It's funny because we actually had to have a discussion with it because when you do a single or two singles, you pay for that. But when you do an EP, it takes longer and it just costs more. So, and also it's really weird nowadays because when I used to be back in bands, there was never social media. I'm 42, right? But when I was in my 20s, there wasn't like there was MySpace at the most, and then LiveJournal before that and all that stuff.
yeah,
So when you release music now and you put it up on like Spotify or Apple Music, you draw all of this traffic to it. So the discussion became, we're getting the same amount of traffic releasing a single versus releasing a 4-track EP, which costs more money, and we're not really getting much more out of it. It's still drawing the same kind of traffic. So DJ Immortal, I don't know if you've ever spoken to this about with other bands, but the social media traffic to like get attention and release music and songs, it's just different nowadays. So anyways, I appreciate you saying those things about our EPs. I'm trying to say is we haven't recorded an EP in a while. We actually were just talking about doing a new one later this year, tentatively. We're not sure yet, but we do try to release at least a single, maybe 3-4 times a year if we can. Every few months, drop a new song. So thanks very much.
And when you mentioned MySpace and whatnot, I remember MySpace as well. I personally loved the fact that like a lot of bands were on there. You could add your favorite bands and communicate with them.
yeah.
It's very different than today. But with that being said, you kind of lived in both eras of bands, like as a musician. So I know you kind of dug into it a little bit, but do you actually feel that like it's a lot harder to be in a band in this day and age with social media, or do you find it easier back in the day? Because I do know social media, it's a great way to get your music out there, but a lot of people sometimes still tend to ignore the music. They don't really kind of engage as much, even though it's there. They're more of their attention spans are very low, is what I find this day and age in 2025.
Brandon, you want to maybe share some
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
it's interesting. I again, I'm a teacher, and so I've got teenagers in my classes, and it's a very strange thing that a lot of them, yeah, I'll ask them directly, like, do you go see live music? Do who are you listening to these days? And they genuinely can't give you a serious answer. Like most of the time, it's no, I don't go live music, and obviously, if you're young, you maybe not always have the opportunity to. But you ask them who their favorite band are, and they just go, "Oh, I listen to everything," and meaning they just listen to kind of whatever top 40 popular thing is on whatever the streaming services or something. They let those systems decide for them. And I know there are ways to tweak it, adjust the algorithm for yourself that helps you experience different music. I'm not as heavily involved in figuring all that out as I perhaps I could be. Um, but it's interesting because a lot of those kids are just like, you ask them about what music they listen to, and they'll say, "Oh, something from 20 years ago now," like
Yeah.
is what they're listening to. So they're all wearing like all the old like new metal band shirts or something these days, which is funny. And they still couldn't tell you the name of the albums. They couldn't tell you that. It's like they just don't. I think the point here is that they just don't have the same kind of interaction with it. They don't have the same investment in it that I think a lot of a lot of us got to experience when we were younger. Like you had to go to the store, you had to find a record, you had to look at the back of CDs, decide one way or the other if you're going to
Yeah.
spend your 15, 16, sometimes $25 or something on the thing, and then and then go home and just listen to the thing rather than, kind of letting in radio interruptions or letting some other letting a service decide for you what the next track is going to be or something. So
I will
yeah, we
say
just
that
have kind of a different experience. Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like it's like a good thing and bad thing, because on the one hand, it's so saturated now. You're battling with everybody else who's releasing things on Apple Music, on Spotify. You're battling against everyone else who's got an Instagram account or anything like that. But on the one hand, it's really good because now your music is on Spotify. And back in the day, in the early 2000s, when I was in punk bands, all we could do was release CDs. And the only people who heard those CDs were the ones that came to the shows, and that was it.
Yeah.
And we have a giant inventory of CDs, like, still to this day, that we never
Yeah.
sold. So nowadays,
Still in
it's
my
like,
closet.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So nowadays, it's like, oh, anybody around the world can listen to your music, but then you're also battling against like social media. So for instance, like now with Instagram pushes reels, and I'm just like, I've never had to make videos constantly and post constantly. Like, you got to post maybe 3 times a week might be like the cherry of like posting on a regular schedule, and you got to make videos. And we need to, like, as a band, we have to like make time to go out and do things, or if we're at shows or something, we have to make time to actually like film stuff so that we gather content to then like shuffle through and look at and be like, okay, I think I make like a little video with some of this stuff, I can do this or that. So it's very different because you're constantly thinking about that sort of thing. And we never had to make videos back in the day. It was just, you play the shows, word of mouth, there's flyers, like Brandon said, you choose what vinyl records or CDs you want to spend your money on in the store, and that's it. So I don't know, it's kind of a good and a bad thing, It's hard to say.
And also, on the cherry on top of all this conversation, Andrew Barnes actually said something that's literally, it sounds bad, it's perfect, but it definitely holds up as well. He says, I think social media is a killer for some bands, just like you mentioned. The attention span is lackluster with some people. I mean, he nailed that right down to a T.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also, like, it's so, like, I keep using the word saturated. It's just so, you have access to so much that your attention span like drops, where I know I can only speak for myself, and back in the day, because I didn't, we didn't have all this kind of access, I would probably give myself more time to listen to like a band or to listen to like a song instead of just like 5 seconds, swiping past, you know what I mean? So I don't know. How do you feel about that, Brandon?
Yeah, it's just kind of a general, kind of media literacy kind of thing. If and it's hard to teach that to kids, but all three of us have something of a a certain level of, or a certain degree of media literacy, where we can sift through what's important, what's not important, and or at least valuable to us in the moment, I guess. And so trying to, as the creator on the opposite side of it, trying to focus our energies to create something that is then going to be meaningful to the people who are going to listen to us and enjoy us, and that is part of the work on our end now, that where maybe we got to experiment a little more before. I mean, I don't know, it's hard for me to say one way or the other, but I know that when we are in our practice space and we're working on songs, creating music, there's always this current of, we're also thinking of what our presence to, or what our visual presence is, what our kind of aesthetic is going to be, in our public facing kind of elements, rather than kind of like, the back room where we're just working on kind of stuff. How creative are we versus how professional do we have to present ourselves? How, it's a balance sort of thing. I'm sure Evan could, talk more to that. So it's great.
I find that we're more cognizant of branding for the band, because you're not just going to a punk show, seeing a bunch of people in like ripped shirts having a good time. It's, you're going to their Instagram or their website or their Spotify page, and it's like, well, what's the logo? What's the colors being used? How do they present themselves? What do they look like? And like Brandon said, we're constantly thinking about that, because it feels like it's more like it's more in the forefront nowadays than it was in the past. I don't know, maybe not, but it just kind of feels like that.
And also, February 13th, 2025, so just a few months ago, you guys released the phenomenal single 666 in the 626. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us the story behind your most recent single, and of course, where can we snag ourselves a copy of it today?
Yeah.
Well, it's our second single that we did recently, or the first of two that we have out. But Evan, go ahead.
Yeah, I was. You know, we did release a new single just recently called "Sweet Lowrider," but DJ Immortal, it's not really a punk song, so
Yeah,
we won't be
on the
offended if
second
you
one,
don't
yeah.
play it on your radio station. It's about something else, and we're promoting that online right now. But yeah, 666 and the 626, again written by Bobby. He's a great songwriter. He grew up in the San Gabriel Valley in, I think, La Puente. It's just known as the Valley for people who aren't
Mhm.
familiar with it. The Valley in Southern California. And so the phone area code is 626. There's an area there he's told us called Turnbull Canyon. It's like a little, like, it's not a national park, but it's like a park area called Turnbull Canyon. And there's these like myths and superstition from the locals who would go down to the park, that there's like evil spirits there and weird creepy things happen and all this like really fun occult type stories. And he remembered that growing up there. So I mean, that's pretty much what it is. He took the stories of that myth of the 626 area code, 666, where I can't speak for everybody, but there's definitely a little bit of Satanism in Surfwax Ghost, just under the surface a little bit right there. So that's the title, 666 and the 626. I think he did a great job. He's got a great solo in the song. Again, this is Bobby. And sounds really surfy, which is what we all try to do, keep that surf sound within our music to represent Southern California, West Coast. And that was the first time Brandon came in the studio with us, was to record that song.
Yeah.
Brandon, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it's I think a lot of musicians have this experience. There's nothing better to get to know a band that you're, going to commit to than to sit in the studio with them and try to hash out something to, and you're getting to know them performance wise and how professionally they take themselves. And so it was very shortly after I joined the band that we wanted to do that. And it was fun. It made me really happy because I think our performance came out really well on it. And it was the first time in a while that I got to be creative with some music, and it just made sense. It was like, yeah, this sounds good when we were listening back to it, and I've enjoyed that song ever since. It gets stuck in my head too, 666 and the six, and it's just like 4 o'clock in the morning. I'll wake up and I'll just hear that refrain in my head.
And Brandon's great on the track, because Brandon is like very technical, very tight with his like drum playing abilities, and like kind of all over the place. Our first 2 years, and that's not a knock against Shay, our first drummer.
Yeah.
She's a great drummer, phenomenal. Has like that punk background, hard hitting, brought a lot of really like trashiness, like trashy drum playing to our style, which is kind of what we wanted. And then when we brought Brandon in, it's a different feel, but it like boosted us up a little bit, like a level. So I really enjoyed about Brandon's playing style. Very technical, very tight, and we pretty much just follow him. So yeah, that was our experience. That's the song.
And we got a fan question here as well from Gwen saying, if a battle of the bands would happen, which ones would you like to go against?
Oh man, that's a good question.
No one that's better than us.
Yeah, I think part of the question is sort of like, okay, like obviously you're gonna have to maybe compare yourself to kind of the popular bands, bands that are well enough known for our response to make sense. I mean, I would say that maybe the local bands that we've already kind of played with, a lot of them. Not only is it because it's fun watching them, but also like you get ideas from them and such. But like if I had to say like a more well-known popular band, I don't know, Evan, can you think of one?
Yeah, I know who I'd say.
Oh, go ahead.
I would say either Agent Orange or the Adolescents.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Especially Agent Orange,
Adolescents,
because
sure, yeah.
they kind of kicked off that surf punk genre, and of course, like we're gonna get our asses kicked because both those bands been playing forever.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm in Orange County, so those are like OC rep and punk bands,
right?
And like obviously the audience is gonna vote for them, but.
Yeah, I'm a big Voodoo Glow Skulls fan, and I could hear a little bit of Glow Skulls in our kind of sound. Certainly, that's kind of a lot of times when they're presenting music to me, I'm hearing a Glow Skulls tune in my head, stylistically, I guess.
Yeah, I think we'd fit well on a bill with any of those three bands. Thanks, Gwen.
Yeah, thank you.
And also, shout out to her as well. I mean, she watches so many of these interviews and is always commenting. So,
That's great.
honestly, I don't know how she can listen to my voice and listen to me answer all these, ask all these darn questions. But thank you for all the support you've shown myself and Punk World Radio FM. Definitely means a lot.
For sure.
But also, May 24th, 2025, you guys will be taking the stage at the famous Regal Inn in Lakewood,
Yeah.
California. What can your fans expect from this up and coming show? And of course, where can we actually snag ourselves some tickets to come out and see you guys live in the flesh in just a couple weeks?
We're gonna kick ass like we always do, like we always try to, like we always plan to. It doesn't matter where the show is, what the venue is, what time of day. I think we played Alex's Bar in Long Beach on a Wednesday night at 11 p.m. and we did the best we could at that time on a Wednesday night. But the Regal Inn is a little cash only dive bar in Lakewood, California. Lakewood's right near Long Beach for anyone who doesn't know. And we're always really excited to play. We try to put on the best show we can, even if there's like 5 people there or just the bartender and people who work or whatever. We want to wow whoever's there. And we've had some instances where we play these small shows in these dive bars and we get a really positive reaction from people, and bartenders buy our merch. They buy our shirts and things like that. For that particular show, you pay at the door. I think it's like, Brandon, what is it, like $10 or something like that?
Yeah,
maybe?
I'm checking.
Actually, it might be free. I'm not really certain.
Yeah, you know what I was going to say too. Something that I've definitely noticed that I guess we haven't really chatted too much about it amongst ourselves. I really feel like as kind of the new guy, I feel like every performance we've done has kind of every consecutive one has just gotten better. Perhaps because we're a little more knowledgeable. We're starting to incorporate more kind of elements. Like I started using some samples, just kind of give a little bit of a aesthetic to some of the songs. Did that more recently. We're including some like silly lighting, and so it feels like each consecutive time that we perform together has just gotten better over the last when did we start? November?
With you, November.
With me at least.
Yeah, I mean, we try to put on like a real show, not just like a band playing there. And there's nothing against bands that stand there and play, but like Brandon said, we include these like fun samples, like the Ninja Turtles Cowabunga from the video game. Like he taps a pad and that plays in the speakers. Then we kick off Big Apple, and getting some light set up so that we have fun lighting happening on stage or on the ground wherever we're playing. And yeah, we always seem to get a positive response from everybody who's there. So that's always encouraging to us to just keep trying, keep doing, reach out and keep playing shows.
Yeah, it's like an energy thing, like, right? I mean, I think even compared to some of the groups that we've watched, you just recognize that not a knock on any of those bands at all, because I really enjoy them, but it's like we just kind of bring a certain energy that perhaps some of the other bands don't always have. I guess to put it mildly, I guess.
It's just, I think it's just experience. Bobby comes from theater. I've been playing bands since punk bands since my early 20s, and I think it's just getting on stage and just doing the best you can. And also I think recognizing that not a lot of people get to do that, get on stage at some of these venues, even if they're small venues, like locally popular venues, even if they're small. When you get a chance to play at these places, it's like, who else gets to do this? Not a whole lot of people. A lot of other local bands, sure, but most people in my life aren't in bands, don't play music, don't do this sort of thing. Maybe they're not totally into it, but I think it's a gift every time we get to go on stage somewhere and perform.
And guys, aside from this amazing performance coming up at the famous Regal Inn, what is next for Surfwax Ghosts? Like, is there anything we happen to miss during this evening's interview that you guys still want to touch on, talk about, or promote? We still got you here live on 99.9 FM tonight.
We're recording soon. Got some new music that's in the works. We did chat, like I think we mentioned a little earlier, about putting together an EP that would. It would be a bit of Evan could probably talk a little better, but it would be a bit of a step away from kind of the harder hitting punk stuff, because they're wanting to do some more kind of like the more mellow but surfy kind of influence stuff. Evan, I'm sure you could say a little more about that.
Yeah, so we have some songs. DJ Immortal, I spoke briefly about releasing singles versus releasing full-length albums or EPs in like today's social media world. So we actually had a collection of songs that I don't know if we didn't feel that they weren't single worthy, but they all kind of fit a theme. And this theme was around like loss, general sense of loss, anxiety, just dealing with the real world. We Surfwax Ghost, we like to sing about campy horror stuff and day-to-day life in Southern California. We love repping Southern California, where we're all from, West Coast surf style, all that stuff. But like real world hits sometimes, man, like politics and laws and the death of a person or losing someone, leaving your life, maybe not through death, but one reason or another. So we had these songs that were like very real to us because as songwriters, a lot of musicians out there know that's what it helps you cope with stress and dark parts of your life that come. It comes and goes always. It's like a cycle, right? Or the waves of darkness that hit you or stress or whatever. So we had these songs that we were like, let's put this together. They all kind of fit this theme. We're still going to keep it surfy sounding and punk sounding. But that's what Brandon was talking about. We were talking about doing that later this year and releasing it. So it's kind of up in the air right now. We're not really sure what's going to happen, but that's sort of our goal. And we have a couple more shows coming up. We're going to be playing Vine in Long Beach in August 21st, which is far away off from now, but a lot of venues book 2 to 3 months out in advance. We got that coming up. And we were contacted recently by an organization called, I had to look it up, Creep It Real OC. Creep, like creepy, Creep It Real OC. It's for Orange County, right? So this is a big event that happens in the fall, I think in Santa Ana out here in Orange County, California, where it's this big Halloween event. And they found out about us online, reached out to us, and they're like, hey, we're looking for surfy horror bands to perform at our event this year.
We got you covered.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah. So we don't have much information on that. I think the next one is going to be in September. I think it's when it's supposed to happen, September. So that's what we got coming up for the year right now. And, sometimes we look at our schedule and we're like, oh, we don't have a whole lot of things. We don't have any like shows planned out. But then randomly out of the blue, we get a message from a band. Hey, we're looking for someone to jump on the bill at the show. You guys free? So it's hard to say that, those won't be our only performances coming up, but that's what we got going on. Vine in August, Creep It Real in September, and then potentially working on an EP. And at the very least, if not an EP, then working on some more singles to release in a few months. Actually, I'm sorry, I totally forgot, Brandon. We're going into the studio, Jazz Cat Studios, in June 7th. So in a few more weeks,
right.
We're going to record 2 new songs, and one of them will be released that month in June. So next month we'll have a new single, and then we're going to release another one in August or September. So DJ Immortal, we just try to keep the ball rolling as much as we can and just keep fresh stuff coming out all throughout the year as much as we can, playing shows, of course.
And we also got, before we wrap things up, I got one last question that came in from a fan. We got Rosalind. She was wondering, if you were to do a cover of a song, what song would you do?
Well, I will say that we used to cover Pipeline when we first started because we really wanted to have that surf element to our show. So we were covering like a punk version of Pipeline. Brandon, you got anything on mind that you'd want to cover?
Well, yeah, I mean, coming from my hard rock background, I've always thought it'd be fun to cover a Rob Zombie tune or something, but I'm sure we could make a surfy.
That'd be really cool, actually.
Super Beast or something. I don't know. We haven't really chatted about it, but
we DJ Immortal, we've talked about covering songs in the past, and what we hit up against is just time,
right?
And the fact that we have so many songs in the bank that we want to work on. It's like we kind of run out of time. I threw out the idea of, because we are a little inspired by like your traditional surf bands, like the Ventures and like all those old bands, and even like a lot of newer bands coming up in the scene where they're just like your traditional surf instrumental band. I thought it'd be kind of a cool idea that if we ever did cover a song, if we just did it as a surf instrumental or something like that. I think we were watching the Tequila Worms recently. They're a young surf band from Anaheim. You should check them out. The Tequila Worms, they're really good. Me and Sean were watching them, and Sean was like, we should cover Earth Angel. And I'm like, that's not a bad idea. We could like punk that up and make it sound super surfy. And him and I are fans of Back to the Future, and like Marty McFly plays that in the movie and stuff. So So I guess that's DJ Immortal. That's our answer. Those things.
Yeah.
See, I think Earth Angel would be sick. And I will say this, I
Yeah,
know this
it
is
would be.
totally not punk, but I would really love to see you guys do a Beach Boys song. Like, literally punk up like Surfing USA or like California
cool.
Girls or something, man.
That'd be cool. It's a lot of
Absolutely.
pressure too.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Brandon.
Oh yeah, yeah. Of kind of my buddy and I, we always joke how, like, everybody loves the Beatles, and he and I are far more like into the Beach Boys, and I've seen them. I think I saw them at least once, and yeah, I totally agree. Like, it'd be fun to, like, California Girls would be a great tune to cover. So, but I mean, we got to get our singing skills
Yeah,
maybe to be able to harmonize correctly.
That's why you punk it up, man. That's why you punk it up and add a shit ton of cowbell,
Exactly. That's why you do it as an instrumental. You don't have to worry about the singing. You just let the guitarist figure it out.
Right.
All right.
But also, before we part ways, guys, obviously I know where to follow Surfwax Ghost across social media platforms. But for people up here in Canada, how do we go about following you guys across all social media platforms? That way we can stay updated on everything you guys currently got coming this year in 2025 and the future.
Well, we post on Threads, and we were posting on TikTok about a year ago before our administration got all weird about blocking TikTok in America. But for consistent posts, Instagram is where we are. We have a website, surfwaxghost.com. Boom, just like that. I'm in charge of that. Not in charge of it, but like I do my best to upkeep it and put up show flyers and stuff like that. All of our music is on surfwaxghost.com for free. All of our music is on YouTube for free if you don't have any of the streaming services. But I would say Instagram is probably the best way to keep track of us. We're not on Facebook. So Instagram, Threads. I want to get us back up on TikTok. And you can find us on YouTube. And like I said, our website, surfwaxghost.com.
And
Brandon,
Spotify, Apple Music as well, yeah.
I was going to say, guys, Brandon, Evan, thank you so much for giving not only myself, but the radio station airways a bit of your time. It was such an honor speaking with both of you, speaking with California's finest this Sunday evening. But hopefully we can make it happen again sometime soon. But for now, guys, have yourselves a phenomenal night and a kick-ass week as well.
For sure. DJ Immortal, thanks so much. We were humbled by the request, so we had a lot of fun.
Thank you very much for having us. Yeah.
Hey, well, you know what? Whenever you guys drop the next album or next single, hopefully you guys get just as humbled again when I slide back in that DM again. So
For sure, man, for sure.
Have yourselves a wonderful night out there on the West Coast, guys.
Thanks, you too.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Bye.